Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, members of staff, and most importantly, students with disabilities and our friends, students living with us to make us feel environment. Good morning. I stand before you as we gather here at Mast to discuss a topic of great importance and urgency. It is called inclusion of students with disabilities in institutions of higher learning. I am honored to address to you all and share my thoughts on this vital matter. In recent years, here has been a growing recognition of the rights and capabilities. It is imperative that we as a society work towards creating an inclusion environment where every individual has equal opportunities to access education and succeed. Yes, I can talk about that point. We are students of different abilities. We have different abilities. I am able to reach Mbarara town like any other person if you give me the time I want. So that's what we always call it reasonable accommodation. If you know I'm supposed to be in a building up and I cannot use steps, which other means can you put to let me reach there? If we do that, you are promoting what we call the ability for me to succeed, and that means I will feel the environment, which I'm talking about inclusive environment. Today we gather here to discuss a workshop and a campaign dedicated to promoting the inclusion of students with disabilities in higher learning institutions in Western Uganda. This campaign aims to raise awareness. Please, knowledge is power. If you know what you want, you will request for it. And I always have one statement that you are feeling headache, you are pain at night in your room will never stop your neighbor from sleeping. So if you're aware of what you want, you raise a voice and if you raise a voice, someone will listen, will guide you. May not be a service to you, but will guide you somewhere and say, but if you want this, why can't you open here, knock here? That means that one comes with awareness. 2, we have what we call foster dialogue and implement practical measures to make our universities more accessible and accommodating for students living with disabilities. I think that one I talked it the other time. The first and most important step in this journey is to cultivate a culture of inclusivity and acceptance. If you accept who you are, please, inclusivity will also be promoted. You don't need to just wake up one time. Actually, that's the challenge within our members. Someone has a challenge. When you try to bring him or her into the association, goes away. When that very person gets a challenge, we'll call you. Please, James, I heard that you do this. Please, I'm in this. But you fail to know yourself. Then when you get a challenge, you know yourself. No, discover yourself before. Actually, you state a measure, what we call practical measures, that will help you forego such a challenge. If it gets you in a challenge, it is not like a defense, but it's the starting point for a solution. It is essential that we as educators, administrators, and fellow students, and abilities that each individual brings to our academic communities. We all have different abilities. As I've told you, we are differently abled, and we can run everything. Let me tell you, if you have an impairment somewhere, remember we are supposed to have 5 senses. If one of the senses is somehow obstructed, remember that concentration goes to another level. If you have ever sat with a student who has who can use one ear to listen, rarely will you be able to beat that student in class, because he is attentive 100%. He concentrates on one point and leaves others. Then for you who is okay, you'll see you want to listen to this one is calling you, and this one, so you'll miss other points. So that means the ability in that person is giving him a cool environment. If you think he does not get anything, bring a translator and sign language interpreter. That person will feel the environment. We must foster an environment where students with disabilities feel welcomed, supported, and empowered to pursue their educational aspirations. That is always my goal. And when I came to MUST, I experienced it. I came, and unfortunately, the person who welcomed me passed away. May her soul rest in peace. She was called Madam Miss Janat. She called me, "Hi James, where are you? I need to meet you. I saw your name." Yeah. And when I met her, she explained to me what MUST is doing for us and how we should benefit from it. Like, wow. Then she told me, in case you need this, in case you face this, call me. So like, I am an administrator. She told me, no, I'm also a fellow student like you. But this is what belongs to us. That means that lady, she had discovered herself. She had known herself. Then after knowing herself, she felt the pain that she, even if she had ever gone through, wouldn't be experienced by any other student. So she kept on. I learned the culture. I learned it. Actually, I'm in it. I will implement it until I leave MUST. And I will go with it in the community where I will do forever and ever. This workshop will serve as a platform to share knowledge. That's why we have groups discussions somewhere. Don't hesitate sharing knowledge. It is today. If you have any challenge, please share it. Experiences and best practices in supporting students with disabilities. It will provide an opportunity to learn from experts in the field and gain insights to the various challenges. That's why you see we have experienced speakers. We have experts who are going to give us knowledge. If we get knowledge, of course now, we'd always say, if we never use the thing of identity, no, ignorance is not the defense of law. That means think knowledge for you to be safe. And this is what we are doing. Don't these things of identity, no, I don't want it. So in case you hear any call again, because this is a starting point, we are continuing and we are still continuing. It will provide opportunities to run various challenges and barriers faced by these students. I think these are the topics. Through interactive sessions, we hope to identify strategies. Please, we need that strategy. And initiatives that can be implemented to remove these barriers and create an inclusive learning environment. Furthermore, it is a campaign. This campaign will extend beyond the workshop. It will serve as a call to action for all stakeholders in higher learning institutions to actively participate in the process of inclusion. That's why in my invitation, I was saying at least an administrator. If you don't have an administrator, a guild representative. Reason? I know those are ambassadors. Please be attentive and take the point home. We need the results. It should not just be a workshop that will end here. No, we need to see the fruits with time. Then we have students without disabilities must embrace empathy, understanding, and collaboration to ensure that their peers with disabilities are fully integrated into the academics. Please, this is also a call. If you know you're living with any person with a disability, make that integration environment. Make a hospitable environment such that that person feels at home and achieves what he also thinks he can achieve, and you will see what that person can contribute to the country. We cannot underestimate the positive impact of these efforts. When students with disabilities are provided with equal opportunities, they not only excel academically, but also contribute to the social, cultural, and intellectual vibrancy of our institutions. We were doing some, what we call a survey on inclusive institutions like primary schools in Barara. We met a younger boy, had his own condition, but this boy is a genius mathematician. By the time you finish your number, the boy has an answer. But he cannot walk, he cannot sit upright. Actually, his sitting is like bending down like this. But as I told you, IQ is not affected by any disability. Actually, if you have any disability, disability increases IQ. Because you always work to prove a point. By the way, to officials who are here, any disabled person, if given an opportunity, always expect the best. Because they work to their best, because they know anytime they are given jobs on trials. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what she can deliver. But we always do our best such that we ensure the best achievement. And I urge you, if you have any opportunity and someone presents to you, please don't try, but give with trust that you are getting the best. So I thought then, unique perspectives and experience enrich the learning environment for everyone. If you told me how your university is treating you, like for us, I'm telling about MUST. It is a welcome university. We have accessibility, no matter other challenges. But I think the environment is favoring. And you also told me this, because there's an institution for certificate person, I can't tell. I called. They told me, for us, we don't admit those students. You remember, you see that statement? And this is a dean of students telling you that statement. We even don't know them. I don't know if they are there. And I think the dean of students office is concerned with students' welfare. If you don't know the condition of students you have at an institution, so which kind of a dean are you? A ghost dean or an active dean? So we are fostering creativity, innovation, and campaign for promoting the inclusion of students. We are talented. We are talented as you sit. You think of something that will make you. I don't believe in a culture of Simanyi. I am disabled, I go and beg. Please, if you find me on the way, don't give me money, but show me where to get the money. Don't say, oh, sorry, no, I don't want that word. Because I've known myself. And I've lived, I think I'm above 20 years. So, how do you think if everyone was doing the same from the first day, where would I be? One time I was told, you boy, what can you do? I said, what can I do? Right now when I got to the village, they asked me, where are you? I told them I'm at the university. Which course? They keep quiet after mentioning. Reason, they didn't expect what? Because that mindset, people associate disability being a health condition. That is a myth. That is a myth. This is something that occurs by nature. We can't avoid it. But it can't be a health condition, please. We adopt to living with it and survive normally, and we believe, actually, I personally believe I'll create jobs for many people, even if you have a disability or not, you'll work. If given what we call reasonable accommodation and inclusivity, where the environment, that environment where we live, I hope to achieve. I think I can summarize. Together we can create a future where no student is left behind. If we combine, if we combine the efforts, you see if someone is there, you say, oh, let me help you, we go. That person will feel. If you have somebody who has a hearing impairment and that person sits, you reserve that seat for that, a front seat for that person. That is also creating an environment. If you have someone who is a sight problem, you see that person cannot view well what is being projected, reserve a front seat. If somebody cannot reach lecture rooms as early as possible, create an environment. Make sure that there is that seat ever for him or her. Whenever he comes, sits. He will feel comfortable. He will feel comfortable. Knows my people care about me. They know whom I am. I know whom I am, and they want me to do this. As I conclude our association, I found it under the Ministry of Health in Must. Allow me to recognize the arrival of our guest of honor, who is at the same time our Dean of Students. I was passing a point. It was a member representing students with disability, a cabinet member, a committee member on a health ministry. When the minister of that regime was reading the committee member, he didn't mention all that. So I raised the point. The Constitution says on the committee members, you have a PWDs representative. How comes out of the 5 he's not appearing? He said, I'm going to receive. Actually, he requested for guidance and forgiveness and went back. Yes, he included me on a ghost matter that I never contributed any point to the activity throughout the regime. It forced me to run a motion in the House requesting for a special independent ministry. They asked me the aims, which I have presented, objectives, I presented, and good enough, the idea was bought, accredited by our Dean of Office students. We are glad. We are always favored and put on a positive response side, and that really calls and understands the point of inclusivity in MUST, if our requests are always considered. Because if it wasn't it, all the requests, the letters can be kept. You press, then they put there, tomorrow it is in the dustbin. You put another one until, but if you are a majority, you are people thought about, you are in a plan of being considered, you are in a plan that they plan for you to achieve something, you always be that, that we call a planned kid. You are always in the list. If it is school fees, they say, write a shopping list, write a shopping, for you to present yours next week. So if you're among these ones, they have said, always you give honor to God and thank the person.
Such a hassle. You cannot even access your meals in time. It's such a hassle. You can't get clean water. It's such a hassle. Then the research has shown that such a student, such a person is likely to drop out within 8 weeks. And when I look at this retrospectively, I say, yes, it makes sense. We have in the past got some students who have come and within 3, 4, 5 weeks, you find they give up. And therefore that means that when we are going to talk about disability inclusion, we must be mindful of the environment in which different people will participate in, right from the time of giving them an admission letter into the institution. That you must be prepared to receive them. You must be prepared to work with them through the processes that you have in the organization, that you must be able to assure them that actually they are in a place where they are going to achieve. And that is the biggest challenge that we have. Because then inclusiveness requires bringing everybody on board. Right from the topmost organ in management, they must be on board. The governing body must be on board because they must be able to provide resources. The management of the institution must be on board because then they must be able to know that they have admitted this student, they have recruited this staff, they must provide for them. The faculty members must know that we have a learning environment where we have learners of different categories, where they must all be provided for. The staff, the non-teaching staff, must know that we have got different categories of people in this community. So are the fellow students, with or without disability. So the disability inclusiveness, therefore, needs the input of everybody. And therefore, while I know that it is sometimes difficult to engage all those players, I know our colleague here, Stella, who is the administrator in charge of persons with a disability, is a full member of the University Council. So at the level of governance, I hope she's given audience to be able to bring on board issues that affect that category of people that may have different forms of disability. At the level of management, yes, we endeavor. At faculty level, I still think we are not engaging enough, I'm afraid. We need to get to faculty level. I'm not saying that they are not sensitized, but we need to engage faculty members more. We need to engage students more so that we can bring everybody on board. And therefore, disability should be a campus-wide concern. It's not the business of a focal person. It's not the business of student leaders. It's a campus-wide concern. At whatever level you are looking at, it should be a campus-wide concern. And becoming an inclusive community, it takes work, like I said, at all levels. Short of that, we shall sit here, and at the end of the day, it will appear like we are lamenting, because we need to have our voices reaching everywhere, and we also need a common voice amongst ourselves. And at Mara University, at least we have management on the board. We do acknowledge that. And we are progressively sensitizing ourselves. And like I said, we need to do more with faculty members, with the teaching staff especially, to be able to make sure that we are able to nurture all the students we receive, irrespective of their challenges here and there. Of course, we have challenges, but we also try to put in place some strategies for inclusion. The biggest challenge we have is our campus design. All the buildings like this one, you may find sometimes accessing them without much hassle becomes a problem. So when it comes to campus design and planning, the resources involved, the specializations, sometimes can be limiting. But now the strategy is going forward, whatever we are designing must be inclusive. The other strategy and challenge again, and I'm glad that we have been reminded about this, is reflecting on how language is used. Reflecting on how language is used, I can see my colleague Stuart Oyesega. Last time when we had a discussion with him, he actually reminded us about the power of language. Language can make or break a person. And I will not re-echo the example he gave us of a parent in one of the districts who at some point had to realize that he had actually led to the destruction of his own child because of an insensitive language. So one of the strategies is also to be very specific and very conscious about the language that we use. We must also build the capacity for inclusive pedagogy. Our members of faculty, and also picked it from the example he gave about his student who had a form of dyslexia, and he had to get a way of getting this student participating in his lectures. So also building the capacity in the faculty for inclusive pedagogy is one thing that we haven't actually been very specific about. That while the lecturers have the knowledge, but also the way they are putting it across may not be taking concern of those that may have different forms of disabilities, whether it is visual, whether it is audio, whether it is at whatever level. So we also have to make sure that the method of pedagogy is compliant and is able to accommodate everybody in the class. Also ensuring that technology is accessible. During the time of COVID-19, when we had the lockdowns and universities adopted the blended model of teaching, adopted e-learning, the Ministry of Education rolled out Odell. Did that technology consider the plight of the people with different forms of disability? Could we have left them out at some point because of assuming that as long as you think there's internet, as long as you think they are internet-enabled devices, everybody can access them, everybody can use them for learning, and therefore you are assessing that class at the same level. Are we considerate? Are we ensuring that the technology that we are rolling out is accessible? Is the web content going to be accessed by the people with different forms of disability? The captioning when we are teaching, is it going to add value? The e-learning materials that we are developing, are they having levels of inclusiveness? The student accommodation processes that we are having, are they prioritizing? Are they giving priority to the people who may need additional support? So these are some of the strategies that we need to look at going forward, that even when we are looking at new innovations, are they bringing on board everybody the way we would want to be promoting? Of course, there are challenges, and the challenges are many and big. One of the biggest challenges is that disability is inherently diverse. Today, if each one of us wrote down the form of the disability that they have or they know of, we are going to have a very diverse level of disabilities. And therefore, mitigating for them, planning for them, preparing for them is bound to be a big challenge to the institutions, to our colleges, to the universities. And therefore, that notwithstanding, the diversity of the disabilities notwithstanding, we should have the willingness to be prepared to address them as they come. The other challenge that disability includes people of every gender. So you are not only planning for men or for women or for children or for boys or for girls, you are planning for everybody. It includes people of every race, every culture, every geographical region, every age group, every socioeconomic level. So that diversity also puts a challenge on whom are you planning for and at what level. The other challenge of inclusiveness is that it's a group to which all of us can belong anytime. All of us can belong to that group anytime. I have seen athletes getting disabilities on the track as they are running. You get an accident and life never becomes the same again. The next time you are either having a spinal injury, you are in a wheelchair, and yet at one time you are the fastest sprinter on the course. I have seen footballers dropping in the pitch midway when they are playing. They go on the football pitch when they are very healthy and vibrant, and they are rolled out on a wheelchair, and sometimes they may never be able to get back onto the football pitch. So it's a group which we can all belong anytime. And therefore, that is how important inclusiveness in planning is. That you're not planning for others. You are actually planning for yourself as well. The biggest challenge has to remain stigma and generalizations. It's a very, very big barrier. Whenever we receive new students and they fill in a form to indicate whether they have any form of disability, many of them will put none, even when they know they would possibly need some support. There is that element of stigma. And therefore, by the time you realize this person never declared, and therefore, sometimes you also cannot put the institution to task because you never declared where you think you need additional support. So if we are also going to carry out this campaign sufficiently well enough, it should be targeting alleviating the level of stigma. It should be alleviating the generalizations of PWDs. It is too much of a generalization. I find really quite too much of a generalization, but possibly we need to contextualize it as much as possible depending upon the various situations. As I conclude, now strategies for full inclusiveness, especially at college level, at university level, it requires deployment of diverse resources. Of course, human resources, whom we deal with, financial resources, including physical resources. The task to bring and keep on board all members in the community in order to build a culture of inclusiveness is one of the big challenges, but I'm glad and I believe you are up to the task that we shall keep hammering this message over and over again until when society appreciates that inclusiveness is for the benefit of everybody. Inclusiveness is not necessarily about disability. An inclusive environment is for every person preparing for him or herself, preparing for his own destiny. I am sorry for standing in between your time and your break, but I thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Remember, last week, but one, we were in KIU. We had visited our brothers and sisters because they had lost their guild president, His Excellency Douglas Matovu. So we paid them a visit as they were trying to do something in memory of him, planting trees and then discussing and so on. I promised them that I would make sure that our relationship doesn't end that day, but we continue building and strengthening it. It is the same hope that I'm going to give to the rest of the institutions that are here, that as institutions, we are supposed to establish such a relationship. Yes? We are supposed to work together, even if we are in different regions. Because if we don't work together, there are very many opportunities which are going to bypass, and we never know. That's why you'll find that people in Kampala, they are always inviting us for conferences, which are fully funded, yes? Things that you'll never see in Western Uganda. So it is only through associating and relating that we can tap into such opportunities and make our universities, our guilds, more vibrant and relevant to our students. So then I also realized that from the different speakers, we are all candidates of disability. That one, I think I agree 105%, yes? So yesterday, I was speaking on some forum or platform. We had a Twitter space of an NGO. It is like an NGO, Future Pharmacy Initiative. And then we were deliberating on a topic, importance of cultural competence in pharmacy practice. And I was the representative from Uganda, with other people from Nigeria, Ghana, and so on. So I came into the Twitter space, but I never knew how to, someone can invite you, they make you a speaker, and then you accept the invite in order to speak. So I was there struggling with technology until when the Twitter space came to an end. Yes? So I was unable to give my remarks because of technological disability. Yes? If I'm right. So we are all candidates of disability at some point. So the only thing we have to take home, or the take-home message, is what has been discussed all through the day, and I will not repeat anything that has been said. Let's embrace our brothers and sisters that are having disability. Let's always be there for them. But most importantly, let's advocate for better structures that can accommodate them and make them feel at home. Our Dean of Students, before he stepped out, he mentioned something that was really important. Said disability should be a campus-wide concern, yes? Not an individual concern. But I wanted to challenge him, if he was still here, respectfully challenge him, that it should actually be a nationwide concern, yes? Because there are some structures that we cannot change as institutions, as individuals, especially when you find we have policies, but then we have policies that come from the top, yes? So you'll find that even if you draft your policy here, it will still be affected by a policy that comes from the nation or the ministry of PWDs. So in other words, some problems that we face as institutions can only be solved systematically if tackled right from the top, by drafting policies that can favor us, drafting policies that can improve the welfare of each and every person that is living with disability. And that's, on that note, I would like to request the representative from Uganda National Students Association to advocate for better policies, to advocate for better services and better welfare for people living with disabilities. And I hope you will deliver the message. Otherwise, you'll allow me to thank you once again and wish our brothers who are traveling away from Barra University safe travels as they go back. And I do hope that and pray that we shall always come together like this, or even in bigger masses, to deliberate on such issues pertaining the welfare of each and every student across this nation. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
I'm the chairperson, Barra District Union for Persons with Disabilities, and I work with the local government as Senior Assistant Secretary, Barra District. And at the same time, I'm the chairperson of all persons with disabilities representing districts at the District Service Commission, stretching from Chiliandongo, Urisa, up to Chisolo. So I'm their chairperson. Every time we receive an advert, we have a group chat for all persons with disabilities who are on service commissions. So they always post it on the group chat, and then I give it to some people who are so much interested to apply. So my presentation today, or in this afternoon, I want to talk about how best you can access jobs or how you can get jobs. So every time a student completes exams, then he feels as if he's a graduate. He starts saying, I need a job, I'm looking out for a job. Yet he has not yet graduated and he has no academic papers. So that person, it's not, you are not a graduate, or you can't start looking for a job before getting your transcripts. So these are some of the things that you need to have before you start searching for a job. First and foremost, you need to have certificates, all your certificates. O level, A level, university transcript, and university certificates, and they must be certified. You must have all your documents certified. That's the first step. Secondly, you need to have all your identity cards, both national identity card and institutional identity cards. This is a requirement, especially if you are joining a public, if you want to be a public servant. You must be having institutional identity cards. If you lost one, it's better you go to police, you get a recommendation, you go to the institution where you studied from, they give you a document to show that you lost your identity card. Short of that, you will not be shortlisted. I will tell you my testimony thereafter. So another thing that you need to have, you need to check your names. Some people, you find people with so many names. I remember one day we were interviewing someone with around 4 names. We were like, is he calling himself his mother-in-law names or what? Because he had like 4 names, and most of them were not even matching. Check your spellings. If your names are matching, if there is any mismatch of name, it becomes difficult to be on payroll. So you need to have all your names well written. The names that are on the transcript, all level certificate should match with the names on the identity cards, should match with the names on your transcripts and some other documents that you may use. Short of that, you need to apply. Some people go to lawyers, this commission of oaths, and they get overdrafts. That one doesn't work. You have to go to high court, and then you get deed poll. Deed poll, you have to apply for it, you pay, they advertise you in the newspapers for 14 days before getting a deed poll. So after getting a deed poll, that will stand a better chance. So after getting all those documents, if you have all those documents in place, then you are capable of standing or start looking for a job. So how do you get a job? How do you search for a job? Through group social network. As we are here, I wouldn't like you to leave this place without forming a group chat. I mean, a group where you can maybe post all your grievances, all your problems, all your opportunities. If someone maybe from KIU has an opportunity, he may be qualified as a teacher and does not, and there is an opportunity for maybe for a medical student and doesn't qualify for that very job. So you can post it on the job and on the group chat, and then someone from BSU or MAST can apply for that very job. So you need to create a social network. So social network is very important. You need to have contacts of very people who are looking for jobs or people who can identify for you some jobs. Then when you are searching for a job, you need to visit the companies yourself. If it is Coca-Cola, you have to move there and talk to HR. You say, I've completed, I have all my documents, but I'm still looking for a job. They will tell you that there is an opportunity, or we are about to advertise, or we shall advertise in near future. So if there is a job, then they will give you. If there isn't any, then they will tell you when they are going to advertise, depending on your qualifications. Then another thing, you can do voluntary work. Some people don't want to volunteer. I remember when I had just completed university, I was doing a voluntary work here at psychiatry department as a volunteer. I spent there like 1 year, and every time the staff would just go for, they would pay them, and then they would go for outing. For me, I would just remain in the office. But it did not stop me from doing a voluntary work. So always do a voluntary work. It's through voluntary work that you can gain experience first and foremost. Secondly, you may get an opportunity. Some people say, but this guy has been here. Why should we advertise this job when actually this guy can qualify for it? They will give you that opportunity. They will give you that chance. So always apply for voluntary work. The same spirit, you can also apply for internship. There are some organizations that offer internships, like these big organizations, like World Vision, like Ad International, like Nudipo, and small time, they may even pay you some little money for your survival. So always apply for internship, because every time you apply, there are some organizations which are very funny. Every time they advertise, they ask you for 3-year experience, of which you don't have. From university, where do you get the experience? There is no supermarket that sells experience. So it is through such an internship that you can get experience, and then you enrich your CV. The other thing, you can use platforms. We have a platform as persons with disabilities called FISO. It was developed by Federation of Uganda Employers. You go on it, it is FUZU. You can write it. FUZU. Then you register on that very platform. They will ask you your email, your password. Then after registering, you put there your qualification. They will always send you adverts every day, depending on your level of qualification. Then you will always apply. Another thing, we can talk of leverage. When you talk of leverage, don't misquote me. Leverage, so you can use your ability and potential to prove to the world that you can work. You can use your skill, you can use everything. You can use anything. But don't go in for bad interview. because you may think that maybe you are using also your potential to go for. Don't use bad interview as a leverage. A leverage, when I talk of leverage, I mean your potential, your ability to use your potential and your ability, your resources to get a job. So if there is, maybe you can even offer free services. Some people, then they will get to know that you have the potential or you have the ability to perform. Therefore, they will call you for that. There is an internship. That one, internship I've already talked about it, especially the medical students. They know how to do internship. It is an internship that you can either be retained or you can acquire a job from somewhere else. Then that's how you can search for a job. Through social network, through website, through voluntary work, and some other things, as I mentioned. Then another thing is how to apply. How do you apply for a job? Some organizations, they have pre-printed forms on their website, or they are just there. Like in public service, they have, if you're a new entrant, there is a public service form slip for a new entrant. They have so many forms, but for a new entrant, you have to fill public service form slip. It is pre-printed. They ask you your name, the schools you went to, and some other experience. So you fill that form. So that's an application. But in some organizations, they require to write a handwritten application or to write an application, what they call a cover letter. What is a cover letter? I think you can talk about the cover letter, but maybe it's not enough because of time. But there are some people whom I took them through the cover letter, so they know how to write a cover letter. So a cover letter talks about yourself, you talk about your age, you talk about some few things about yourself, and then how you are interested to do that very job. So you write a cover letter, then you write a CV. A CV, it talks about yourself, talk about your experience, talk about your education background, and then you put out the referees and your contacts. So some people develop CVs, that is curriculum vitae. Once, you say, I have my CV written already on a computer. No, that's not a CV. You write a CV depending on the job that you're going to apply for. Because you have to put in some changes, and before you write a CV, you have to look out for the job description for that very job. And then, after reading through the job description, you find out what they want. That's when you can be able to write a CV depending on the job description and what they want. So you always develop a CV every time you are going to apply. You have to update your CV every day. So don't write a CV and then you stop there. Because every day you gain experience, every day so you write a CV. And some organizations, they require you to write a resume. A resume, it is almost the same as a CV, but it is condensed, it is summarized. It is a summary of the CV. You just summarize it and then you call it a resume. So some organization will tell you to write a resume, you write a CV. They will not shortlist you. You just leave you. They tell you to write a CV, you write a resume. They will not shortlist you. So you have to understand exactly what the job is all about. What the advert is all about. What do they require? Recently, there was a lady whom I was working with Art International. She applied for a job in Kazo. They wanted all the documents to be certified, and for her, she did not put certified copies, and she was not shortlisted, and she was so embarrassed and disappointed because she knew she was going to take on the job because she had all the qualifications, but her documents were not certified, so she was not shortlisted. So always certify, have all your documents certified. Then attach all your documents. Sometimes they tell you to attach your academic documents. You put there the past slips. You don't put there the certificates. They will not shortlist you. Or you put the certificates, you don't put there the identity cards. Always attach all your academic documents that talk about you. Attach your institution IDs, attach your national IDs, attach your transcripts, attach your certificates, and then plus a CV if it is required. And put your phone on a CV that is very active. Sometimes they make a call, you find your phone is off. When your phone is off, they will consider you as someone who is not interested. Because every time they advertise, you find that maybe they have like 3 opportunities. They want only like 3 people. And the applicants, the number of applicants it is so big, you find that maybe the applicants are like 200. So how do they eliminate? They call you don't pick, they leave. They call someone else. Because they were trying to use it as the elimination method. They want to eliminate the number of applicants, people who are applying for that very job. Because they can't interview all the 200 people on the same day. It will be costly for the organization and it will be costly for them. So if they call your phone number and your phone is not on, they will just leave. So always put that the phone that is very active. So that every time they call, your phone is on and you are told maybe to come for interviews. And we have been fighting with public service because on that very form, I talked about that Form 3. It doesn't capture the type of disability that one has. So it would be prudent for you to write on the bottom of the application form that I'm a person with disability and have such and such a disability. For reasonable accommodation, as I have always talked about. Because if you are deaf and you don't mention it anywhere, they will call and will not pick a phone. So they will think that maybe you have hesitated to pick a phone and you are not interested in their job. Therefore, if you put that I'm a deaf person or I'm a person with hearing impairment, then they will get to know that by making a phone call, it will not help them. So they will send you a message. If you're a person with disability, maybe you are a wheelchair user and you indicate it on the form, then they will prepare interview room in a room that is accessible. But if you don't indicate it anywhere, they may take it to the first floor and will not access that very interview room. So it's better you write on the application that I'm a person with disability and I have such a kind of disability. I think most employers are now sensitized, so they will not discriminate you they will not discriminate you on the account of your disability. So already indicated there for reasonable accommodation. So I will talk about how to prepare for interviews. So you have applied, they have shortlisted you, they have invited you for interview. So how do you move to interviews or to interview room? You have to get all your academic documents, all your documents that you submitted. Actually, the thing that I forgot to tell you, when you are going to submit the application, at least you remain with a copy. You remain with a copy of the application of all the documents that you will have submitted. So that when you are going for interviews, peruse through the documents, you find out what you submitted, the lies you put there, maybe in a CV that you worked with such an organization of which you do not work with. But for the sake of your job and for the sake of you getting a job, always have that copy so that before going for interview, read through. I received them, that I worked with MTN and I was a salesperson. So on that very day, you'll be knowing that you deceived them, but at least you worked with. They may ask you that, which company do you tell us that you worked with? You say Airtel. Yet you put that MTN. So they will get to know that maybe you are deceiving and you are just fooling them around. So they will not give you. So always have a copy of your application. So that before going for interviews, then okay, let me try. Before going for interviews, then you read through the application form. And another thing, you have to go with all your original documents that you submitted. Then another thing, you have you have to dress well. Dress code is very important when you go for interviews. Don't go don't dress provocatively when you are going for interview. They will just look at you. You say this one you cannot employ. As Dr. Stewart was saying, that they put a seat there, the panelists are there, then they let you go, and you simply enter into the interview room. You sit, then you will lose some marks. So always obey to instructions. If you enter into the interview room, just stand. They will tell you to sit. If they don't tell you to sit, just remain standing, but dress well. So they will tell you to sit, and then when you sit, don't cross your legs like this. Some people cross their legs, then they start posing around. That one will lose the marks. The other thing, try to be brief. When you are in the interview room, try to be brief. They will always ask you open-ended questions. So always answer the question that I've asked you, but don't go an extra mile by explaining. Throughout the process of explanation, then we lose out some marks. I think that one. With interviews, I've exhausted them. Then how to maintain the job. After getting a job, how do you maintain it? Then try to be, once you have gotten a job, or once you have been given a job, try to be proactive. Always be active, so that they can admire you. There are some people who have a misconception that persons with disabilities, they cannot make it. But prove to them beyond reasonable doubt that you can do something beyond their expectations. So, and try to manage their expectations, because once you have been given a job, people have lots of expectations in you, but try to manage their expectations. Another thing, you have to be flexible. They tell you to do this, and then you are like, no, I can't afford, I can't manage. So always try to be flexible, don't be wooden. Another thing, you need to learn from your past mistakes. If you did a mistake the other week, don't repeat the same mistake this week. Always learn from your past mistakes. And then another thing, once you are given a job, once you have been given a job, always be humble to your bosses. Always communicate well and always be humble. So throughout, and find solutions. Sometimes the boss may ask you, we have such a problem. What do we do? You say, I don't know. If you don't know, what do I do as the boss? So I check you and I hire someone. So always provide solutions to your bosses. Then another thing, maybe that's all you can do before getting a job and after getting a job. But I wanted to take you through, just in 1 minute, some legal frameworks that are governing employment. We have a constitution. It talks about non-discrimination. When you read the Article 121, it talks about non-discrimination. When you read the Unemployment Act, when you read the Disability Act, they all talk about non-discrimination on a job. So if you apply for a job and you are discriminated against on account of your disability, then you can appeal, and then you put that organization into courts of law. They will always hear to you. I've trained so many employers on how to be positive and how to employ persons with disabilities, and I've always told them about the job curve or job carving. When we talk of job carving, we mean creating laws for persons with disabilities in order to perform them better. Don't tell Vincent to carry this desk up the other gate every day. I will not do it. Even if you give me 10 million, I will not manage. So give me what I can do. So that reminds me of the genocide that took place in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, there was the massive killing. And every time they wanted to kill people, they would just make them line up. They said, then they will ask you, short or long? Should you say short, they cut your hand like this. If you say long, they cut you from this side. So one day, they made people line up. And there was an old man in the line, eagerly waiting for his hands to be chopped off. So when they asked him, short or long, he told them that you are tailors, give me what fits me. So they said, what? You are tailors, give me what fits me. Because you know what, whether short or long, just give me what fits me. So always give persons with disabilities what fits them. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you are comfortable with me using this mic, because many people have tried to dodge. I also intended to dodge it, and I think now I have green lights to that. So my name is Mwesije Ephraim, and I am the head of Department of Disability and Inclusion in the Uganda National Students Association. Many people, I don't know if they understand what UNSA is. So briefly, by Education Act 2008. That is the principle that regulates education system in the whole country. Under Section 30, the section provides that there shall be students' councils in all post-primary institutions managed in accordance to Uganda National Students Association's constitution. And the same is replicated in the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act. I have been given an opportunity to share my personal experience as a student with this disability, and even after what I am going through as a student with disability. So I want to first appreciate the University Administrative Authority, in particular the VC and the Dean in their absence. But I am so sure you will deliver the message. And secondly, I want to inform the administrator that in advocacy, we don't have friends. We don't expect anything good, but also don't expect bad. Why am I saying so? We are here discussing our experiences, and our experiences are really not good. And they are not good partly because of what we think is either negligence or maybe the I don't care attitude, what somebody defined as attitudinal barrier. For example, if I am received as a student with a disability in university today, and you look at me, you find me in a wheelchair. But then when you are allocating the timetable, you find that I have to attend about 4 of my 6 or my 5 course units upstairs. But in those upstairs, there is no any modification done to the building. That is the experience I have witnessed myself. I have a student who has just completed software engineering at Makerere. But I have seen that student missing 2 course units every semester until he completed his 4-year course. That is Makerere, where we think everything good is. I have also witnessed a situation whereby an effort by students like this trying to come up to put the university to attention of particular challenges, and actually they even come with good proposals. But then a university administrator will stand up and say, if we allow these students to move forward with their programs, they are going to overtake our mandate. I'm talking to the administrator, and these are your clients. So I don't know how things are here, but I have that experience. Back then, I have an experience as a secondary student where I suffered all what they have mentioned here: bad communication, attitude, demoralization. I remember when I joined the senior 1, I joined the senior 1 when I could not hear at all. For the whole primary and secondary, I was not perceiving any sound. The colleagues I joined with, those who knew me, were the first to introduce me to these other students in school that me, I don't hear. Now you can imagine, you have come from and we are the scholars. So you have to move with a group which is speaking, you are not hearing. When they reach at school, they will inform students from different parishes and everywhere that that one is a Kasiu. Now, at the time I joined, they said they had introduced Kiswahili. So as we are learning new Kiswahili vocabularies, they said, Kiziwi. Kiziwi means a deaf person in Kiswahili. So now that is the environment I was ushered in as a senior 1 candidate, hoping to complete 4 or 5, 6 years in the same school. How I went through is something funny I cannot even define, because all I know, I went home and told my mother, because she was the one who was much more interested in going to school. They was not always so much with us. I'm not going back to school. The woman looked to the other side. When she came back again, she told me, no, tomorrow you will be the first. Now, that is the environment of secondary. The relief that came is that at the end of the term, I think I was the second for the whole senior 1. So being the second, it became again a problem. I got more enemies instead of friends. I got, surely the situation again intensified. But now I said, what am I going to do? At home, they don't want me. They want me at school. Literally, did I know that at home for them, and even the adults, they would see a potential in me, which me personally I was not seeing. Because me, I was looking at being victimized, at being labeled, at being castigated by colleagues. Now, when I performed better, the friends became teachers, but these other learners, we became enemies. Now, what I had to do, I became somehow stubborn. I realized that I had no friend, and I needed to survive. So what should I do? I used it to identify those whom my energy could accommodate. So if we said something wrong against me, either in signage or I observe, that day for you don't study. I was best at giving slaps, of course. Definitely it wasn't good and it wasn't the best alternative. But I am trying to show you the extent to which somebody can be demoralized and then a whole useful person to the society is killed along the journey. Because some of my colleagues who were about, I think, 4 students with disabilities, but I think I'm the only one who completed senior 4. Now, you who are here, when I'm sharing all that personal experience and the experience I'm witnessing in other universities, I'm not now giving you as students. I expect you to do something. I expect the administrator, once you take the idea, or you want something better to be done, the administrator should not look at you as somebody who is going to usurp his or her powers. At the end of it all, the administrator has an appointment letter. For you, what do you have to show? But you have will. You have students' will and support. Above all, you have the vision you are bearing for the students. Are we together?
Yes.
Back to the university now. When I joined the university, I was lucky that the dean of students was an inclusive person. The dean of students first sent me to a university hospital. At the university hospital, they did an assessment. When they did an assessment, the doctor I found there tried to do a more study. He made a reference which was unique. He said, go to Muragu and make sure that you come to my office. Only if you find there another doctor, don't dare. He wanted to do a further study on what, because he tested the audiology, definitely it had declined, but it looked to be stable. So he said, this person, if he can get surgery, there is a likelihood of the hearing loss to be improved. He may not go to normal, but he may not remain where he was. That is the statement he made. Now the dean of students said, what do we do? He requested the director of the university hospital make recommendations regarding this student for the surgery. And the director did a good job, wrote. The dean now committed the university to sponsoring the operation. Very expensive, around 210 million in 2007. So I was able to regain, to obtain hearing to the level where I am today. Even when I'm coming, I'm supposed to move with hearing aids, but sometimes I say, let me restrain these ears. After all, they had gone. Now that they are here, let them also do what? Feel what I went through. I strain them to make sure that I perceive everything without using a hearing aid. But otherwise, I am a hard of hearing person now, a person who was a deaf completely. Remember, you cannot speak when you have not heard. So I had both challenges. And the problem was that I could speak. You make a statement, someone replies, and you replies in a harsh way. Then you start wondering why you were born. And that's where most people lose self-esteem. In an environment that is not supportive, an environment that is not encouraging, that is where most people fail from. If you happen to be a parent of a child with a disability, perhaps with a hearing impairment, if you are not so careful enough to observe the relationship between this child and the siblings, then you can spoil the whole family, or you spoil this child forever. Because I have seen children in such circumstances killing their siblings out of verbal exchanges. I saw one in Bushenyi here, Kagamba. I have seen another one in Kampala. So I asked, how do they live with others? At home, this one who doesn't hear does not even eat with others, but is a child like others. So the parent, what he has to do is to make sure that even during the holiday, this child stays in a deaf school, such that he does not get problems with his siblings. Now, in Uganda, we do not have an inclusive education policy. Whatever we see as being done as special needs, as whatever, is out of gambling, but there is no guiding document. We are encouraging institutions and schools. Instead of having specialized schools for persons with disabilities, why don't these institutions be inclusive? For example, if access is to this building, why doesn't you ask the estate's management to come and cut and fill, such that somebody with a wheelchair can easily access? And that can be done to different buildings. In all the buildings, we may not have resources, but the panorama lift can be put there. If the lecture theater, the known lecture theater for a particular course is in a particular building, because lecture theaters are designed specifically for that purpose, then do a modification to that building. If I tell you, I asked Kevin, how much do you think you have lost for not attending every lecture at ICT and at old technology? He said, now, per semester, those are 2. That means each year he was missing 2. Times 4, how many are those? So who is going to compensate? And no one, the administrators, when you are talking to them, they talk to you nicely. They show you that actually they understand the problem. But there is a university where I attended a conference like this. The vice chancellors were there, the dean of students, university secretary, and everybody, because there was an allowance. And then we allocated 200 million for establishment of a disability center equipped with other learning requirements, because the disability center is also supposed to cater for staff. Whenever we are mentioning disability in institutions, we normally tend to look at students. But in my course of study, I saw 2 professors becoming disabled. One was amputated because of asthma. Then another one got an accident and lost the arm, and is now retired. So when we are talking of inclusive learning environment, it should also be inclusive working environment. And when we are talking of those 2 things, we should also cater for those who are not ready with that problem. Because as people are losing limbs and whatever, others are losing speech. I also saw one who lost the speech. This person was a director of research in Electoral Commission, but at the same time was teaching at the Road Development Center. He lost speech. So, what would be the fate of the person in those senior positions with a family losing the basic skill of survival? So here I want to emphasize that we don't need to look at disability as an individual aspect. What we have to put in mind is that we are all candidates of this phenomenon. And I have seen someone saying disability is in mind. No, disability is real. It is there. What is in mind are implications. The moment you believe that disability is real and it is with you, it is part of you, like I had to appreciate first before even getting this simple relief, then these other things becomes easy. But the moment you ignore and you start taking it like it is an individual problem, then the problem, the effects becomes more and more complex. And then you fail to address the whole problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to challenge the administrator also that much as we don't have a disability, an inclusive education policy in place today, much as we don't have rules forcing you, even a must university may not have a disability policy today, the whole university. If that is the thing I would have first seen here, such that I look at what the policy caters for and what it doesn't cater for, and compare it with other universities and the law. He has already mentioned it. Article 32. It empowers everyone, not only the administrator, but every leader, to take affirmative action in all spheres of life, to cater for persons marginalized either by history, culture, or something. So when you stand here and say you are not doing something in order to cater for the plight of students with special needs, just because there is no policy, then that means you fall short of knowledge. Because Article 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda says that it is supreme all over. It is supreme over the rules of the university. It is supreme to the University Guild Statute. It is supreme to the University Council decisions. The moment the University Council passes a decision that contravenes that provision, however good that decision could be, it is completely wrong. It is completely null and void. 2, Article 35 of the same Constitution requires all environments where a person with a disability live to be accessible. So I don't know if now I am told must severely, under in a civil manner, to what extent can it be liable to the actions it has done that are affecting these friends of mine. Because if they say that the environment must be, that means before you are even given the first license, before you are given a charter, you had to first make sure that people who are going to come here are going to have access to all places, not only in terms of buildings, but there will also be people to communicate to them perfectly, like sign language interpreters, and then the place has to be fitted with signs for people who depend on sight, but they don't hear. In terms of teaching, it is worse. The ministry passed the order system. We said the experience, that's what I'm discussing. So I'm discussing the experience I have from Makerere, Chambogo, Mountains of the Moon, and where. I would request that you liaise with the academic registrar and see whether the set teaching equipments are catering for everyone. Some computers are in the library, but you find that you don't have computers with talkbacks, meaning that a person who is hearing with a visual impairment is not going to start on that computer. Another one, you are going to set it and find that the way it operates, a person who doesn't have the limb cannot operate it. But there are mitigations. The technology is there which can mitigate all those problems. I have also seen a challenge whereby a university like this, when you are sharing the 60 students, the government gives the whole country. They don't segregate. They don't select for you learners. You come here, you find there is no braille, there is no embosser. That means that results for students who are doing well are going to come when you are still waiting for the results of this visually impaired student for Chambogo to work on them. But it is very easy to have that system installed within the university. I do appreciate that it can have budget implications. But the budget implications in financial year 1, financial year 2, at least have something in the paperwork and we say money got is not there. But if there is no a proposed something, then we may not know whether the problem is budget, whether the problem is the mind of the administrator. All these things I'm talking about, I have just been exposed to them.
When our MC in the morning, she asked about inclusivity. And many of you gave the right answers, and I was also very happy. So here we are saying it is the practice of policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded. So you are providing resources, you are giving opportunities. In some cases, people want to come and they say, no, for you to just be there. You are a woman. No, don't come here. You are young. Like there is this advert. That you say you don't sell alcohol to people that have not made 18. That's already exclusion. So inclusion means you are bringing everybody on board with opportunities, with resources, etc., and they become part. And then the barrier is like you are putting a fence or an obstacle to prevent movement or access. So a person remains here. So when we talk of the barriers to inclusive education, we are looking at those obstacles, those issues that may prevent people from accessing resources, accessing opportunities. Because we are in an educational institution, I wanted us briefly to look at inclusive education. Because when we talk of inclusion, we mean everywhere in all those communities where we are. You are going to participate in elections, and they say, no, you cannot come, you cannot participate because you have a disability. We go to access loans in the bank. They say, no, you are a woman, you cannot. So that is now, we are looking at inclusion from that bigger perspective. But when we come to institutions, we are looking at inclusive education. It refers to the ideal of fair access to learning for all. According to UNICEF, inclusive education is the most effective way to give all children a fair chance to go to school, learn, and develop the skills they need to thrive. So when we talk of inclusive education, we are looking at accessibility. You are able to be there. We are looking at participation. You are allowed to participate, or chances and opportunities and the circumstances allow you to participate. And then achievement, to achieve. Because you might go there and access a classroom, for example, there is a ramp, you can roll in, you are in a wheelchair, you come in, you have access. You can't even participate. Children are there, they start a song, you sing with them, you clap, you are participating. But we are looking at the end, have you achieved? Because like for us teachers, in other times they say, you must go to school, you must teach these children, you must attend 5 days in a week. But the teacher can decide to be in school when children are not achieving anything. I just come, I'm in class, and I make them sing from morning up to evening. The teacher in office will hear the children laughing, oh, that's an interesting teacher. The children are enjoying, when actually they are not learning anything. So when we talk of inclusive education, we are looking at the accessibility, the participation, and the achievement. Are we together? Yes? Can you clap for me? Don't doze. I can see people sleeping already. You have accessed and you are not participating, which means in the end you may not achieve. So, inclusive systems allow learners of all backgrounds to have the same opportunities to grow and learn according to their own abilities, while also supporting their parents, like those in primary schools. You support the parents to ensure that they also support the children. So here, of all backgrounds, he has a hearing impairment, he comes from a poor family, he has a visual impairment. So inclusive education allows this to make sure that everybody is there. Last time when I met staff, when we were discussing with staff, I congratulate those students with disabilities that make it to university. Because you go through a lot of challenges. I taught at Tukore, this school at Mile 8. I remember seeing how children were struggling, how teachers were even abusing them, how other children stigmatized. I was with you there at Tukore. Yes? And Vincent? Yes. So if you can see, these ones are old men, and I'm still here. I was teaching them long time ago. So if you can see Vincent succeeding and putting on a coat, if you can see her and she's saying she's doing a master's, those people must be congratulated. Because there is quite a lot along the way. If you can see that man in glasses reaching a certain level, they go through a lot. They go through a lot to reach this level. Many of them are no longer on the streets. They are in the villages, completely wasted. And yet they would have thrived, they would have moved up. At our organization, we have Didas. Didas is our advocacy officer. He has no arms. One time when he did a diploma, and now he has completed a bachelor's degree in community-based rehabilitation from Chabog University. One time I was teaching students, the teachers, those who come from senior 6. and you know how you girls in those grades, how you pose and you walk and you know, like as if you are walking on eggs. So one time I took Didas, I said, Didas, come and talk to these children. Didas came and everybody was like, how does he write? How does he? Just walks like this. He has no arms, but he made it from primary. He went to HSC, he went for diploma and he completed it. He went for bachelor's. So he looked at them, he said, for you, you don't know the world. You have not started. The world is full of challenges. You have not started. And they were asking, how does he write? Of course, he uses his food. And he writes, even with a computer. One time we came here and the staff of Mbara University of Science and Technology bought him a laptop. Let's thank the university, also the staff. Because he was also complaining, you know. If I am deaf, I come to attend a conference, a workshop, and there is a sign language interpreter. And he's signing, and I'm hearing and I'm following everything that they are discussing. It means even when I go, they will ask me what the conference was all about. I will tell them because I have participated. So meaning society has made it easy for me to participate. But if I come here, there's no sign language interpreter. There's no written material that I can read. I just remain there trying to see people, what people are doing. Then I will go and I will gain nothing from the conference. Why is inclusive education important? Worldwide, there is an estimate of 240 million children with disabilities. Yet, while children with disabilities require same access, they need good education so that they can also, in future, be able to succeed in life. But there are different barriers that prevent these people from participating, and especially from the policy making level, in the country, in the university, at the sub-county. Barriers. And the most prevalent ones, the first one is the attitudinal barriers. They didn't talk about it. Attitudinal barriers. And the first one, look at the last bullet. The first one is that student with a disability. Because if you can't come up and you say, I can manage, nobody will fight for you. So children with disabilities, people with disabilities have been letting us down. You try, he says, but don't you know I'm deaf? Don't you know I'm disabled? And you are just hiding. You have negative attitude. You, as a person, as a student with disability. And you let the advocates, people that would be coming to fight for you, you let them down. It's like we are talking of women emancipation. But you saw women were moving forward. And then at times you sit and you say, what can you do? They are in force. And then at times you have nothing to do to support them. But if they were to say, but you know we are women, whereas you are meant for the kitchen, they wouldn't even get all these points here in universities. They wouldn't be getting loans. These programs wouldn't. So you have to move forward to show that you are capable. So negative attitude among students with disabilities. Last time we saw it when I was meeting the staff, that these students fear even to enroll, to say, I have this problem, because of fearing stigma. You don't want to be stigmatized. You don't want anybody to talk about it, and you remain there. So, attitudinal barrier begins with a person with disability himself. looking at himself or herself as not capable of managing, of succeeding. Then the other people, the peers, negative attitude. You are forming a group, discussion group, and this person is visually impaired. They just exclude you. And they don't know, they have not even explored whether you are really capable. They don't involve you. Negative attitudes of the teachers. You know, there is this prejudice. You already judge that this student is blind. I don't think he will make it. Yeah, in some universities, I think you remember at Makerere one time, I think the first students with disabilities enrolled at Makerere. And the admissions board said, no, we can't allow you. Like a visually impaired student was denied. We can't allow you because you cannot. I remember when we went for grade 3 interviews in 1984, I think. The panel would sit there, you enter, and then you walk, and then they say, sit there. Eventually, when I asked, they told me that they wanted to prove whether you can hear very well, because you would sit there, they ask you whether you can hear very well, whether you can see, and even the walking. That if you are leaping, children will laugh at you. That's what we were told. As if I'm leaping and I'm teaching mathematics, and then those formulas will also be in that shape. Content is content. Content is content. So, attitudinal barriers. Inclusion is a frame of mind as much as a matter of practice. It starts from your head and then it goes into practice. If I know you are a thief, you may not be a thief, but maybe from some rumor, I was told I developed a negative attitude on you. You are a thief. I will not leave you in my room. That is now the practice. No, just go out. Go out. I can't leave you in my room. Why? Because inside me, I know you are a thief. Even when you are holy. So it starts from the attitude side, from the mind, then it goes. Thus, attitudinal barriers may be the most difficult to overcome. The accessibility, you can work on it. You can put a ramp and the person access it. But attitude, if it's negative attitude, meet somebody one time and then he tells you and he shows, do you see that man there? That man is a thief, that one. It immediately goes into your head. Then after 2 days, the same person meets you and tells, by the way, the other man I told you is not, I meant another one. I just mistook him. He will tell you. But in you, it will take like 6 months or 1 year. Whenever you see that person, immediately you see a thief. And then after say, by the way. But it will be in you for some time. So it is difficult to change the attitudes. And when the attitudes are developed. Attitudinal blocks may take the form of misconceptions, like people with disabilities. A student with a disability, a child with disability cannot go to school and learn. And it is a misconception and it is developed. Stereotypes or labeling. A tradition of segregated recreation programs can set a pattern that perpetuates isolation. Eventually, we are pushing in. We are looking at the barriers that exclude students with disabilities in institutions. And what we are talking about is the attitudinal barrier. Societal norms often are the biggest barrier to inclusion. All attitudes die hard and still resist the accommodation of students with disabilities and learning issues. Accommodation, they didn't talk about it, but since you are new, I will give you an example of what the example I always use about providing some accommodations. When I was teaching my students, there was a student who was a stammerer. So I thought, and whenever I looked at him like this, he would look down. But I never minded. Me, I knew maybe he's shy, maybe that's... So he was dodging that I don't ask him any question. So after like 5-6 lectures, when I was moving out, he followed me. And they said, excuse me. Then I stopped. He said, excuse me, sir. When you are in class and you are teaching, don't think I don't understand what you are teaching or I'm not following. I follow, but I have a problem, as you can hear me. So I know if I'm to ask or to answer any question in class, I would take long, and other students may not be comfortable with me, or they may even laugh at me. And he was a serious stammerer. So he said, otherwise I follow. I said, it's okay. He was called Peter. So next time when I came to teach, instead of asking, tell me what you think, give me your answers, I would tell students, get pieces of paper, write your answers. They would write. Then I would say exchange. So he gives me, then the other one. Then I would get a friend. I would just start from here, then reach him, a friend, and then he reads Peter's piece of paper. Then in that way, I involved him in the classroom. He also became part of my classroom. So when I was telling them I'm going, he followed me and said, you are the best teacher. Because his answer would be read, and the other students would discuss it, criticize it, or say it's okay. So he would know he has participated in the classroom. So that's one of the reasonable accommodations. What she's doing is also another accommodation. Somebody talks, and you are signing for the other learner to follow what you are doing. So those are the accommodations of students with disabilities. So if staff have little exposure to people with disabilities, fear or unknown of the unknown may cause them to resist inclusive services. If you don't know sign language, and there are 2 children who are deaf in the classroom, because you don't know what to do, at times you become angry, you don't know what to provide, you are challenged. And these are the learners, and you are supposed to cater for all the learners. So you may display any attitude. Actually, in some schools, they will say, they chase the children with special needs to some teacher that maybe has a diploma, and yet this child is in P5, and the other one is a classroom teacher of P3, but they are pushing. It's because they don't know what to offer. They don't know what to do with such learners. The second one is administrative barriers. Institutions may lack outreach networks, may lack staff trained in inclusive practices. There could be problems with adequate transportation and funding to coordinate the services. The university council administrators may not understand inclusion well. Like here, at least now the dean of students is good. At Chambogo, can even be put on record, at Chambogo, we would struggle. You say, we want to go to the field to supervise students. And you are going to supervise students who are maybe visually impaired, where a teacher is using tactile means. And you are supposed to be there and you follow. You cannot supervise maybe 5 students in a day, like the ordinary students, the ordinary student teachers. This one is a teacher who is teaching visually impaired children. Then you tell the academic registrar, the bursar, and you say, we need more days to go to the field and then supervise. They will say, no, we are looking at the numbers. We are looking at the numbers that you are supposed to supervise like 20 student teachers, and yet it's not possible. At times you find some institutions are looking at, they want to maximize profits. they want to see how much they save than putting the money into those people that also matter within the institutions. So at times the administrators may even mistakenly presume the inclusion to be expensive, it's a liability. When we will bring more students on board, students with disabilities on board, it will be expensive for us. And yet, these are also students. These are also students.
Today, I very much looked forward to having a conversation with you and presenting to you a little bit of an introduction to disability empowerment in different settings. But I think my understanding of empowerment also requires one's clarity on what do you want to deliver. And looking at the time right now, I have very much respect that all of you are still here, all of you are still in attendance, even when you have had a long day, right? So I have requested the university authorities or the organizers that, because I'm coming back in the summer to Uganda, that I would avail myself. I'm coming there for work reasons, but I know I can avail myself to meet with all of you in a much more calm space where we can have this conversation. I can give you the training that I had prepared, and I'm very sure it is to your own benefit that we can work together in person in July or early August before I return away from Uganda. So today's presence, my presence today is to simply appreciate you for being here and also for being present to setting up the association that I have heard of, and as well the fact that you are pushing on establishing certain institutions and structures within your university, processes that would support you or even empower you in your everyday student life or even afterwards. Because I've seen the program, it has a broader scope of topics that are very, very beneficial that are also not common in many discourses. So this is me, and I wanted to offer you that okay, I will stop talking now. Okay, that we could meet again in person and have a much more better training or seminar or workshop arrangement than in this setting. Thank you. I would stop here now, and I want to know if anyone has a question before I can say goodbye to you. But you can be sure that Madam Dusabe will be informing you and communicating to you when I have come in the country and when we can have this sit down together. I will be very much happy if I'm able to meet with you again. Thank you.
Each one of us is stigmatized, marginalized, and prejudiced in some way or other. Do we all need to be compassionate for ourselves? Rub your hands together. Do like this as if you are holding an energy ball within your hands. And once you start feeling that electromagnetic tinglings in your feet, send it to your heart and say, I am compassionate to myself. And I'm compassionate to you. Very good. Clap for yourselves again. For my Masters of Philosophy, I studied quantum physics and cosmic consciousness. And we believe that everything is energy. Everything is what? And once we understand this, we will be able to realize that there is nothing there to grieve for. Whether I have a small bust, there is nothing there to grieve for. Why? Because matter is 99% energy and only 1% particle. So why focus on the 1% particle when we are 99% wave and energy? Instead of the 99% that is more powerful and who we really are, we grieve on, I have a small bust, I have a lame leg, I am not able to hear properly. But we should be able to look beyond the physical and tap into the 99% of who we really are. Because if everything is energy, that means we'll have to make a choice to either focus on the physical, material perception of things or the energy perception of things of our higher dimensional self. What do I mean by this? We are more no thing, no form, than physical material substance, because physical material substance from which our disabilities is defined is only 1%. But that 99% that we are energy means something else. We will be able to realize that there is nothing there to grieve for, because energy is neither created nor is it destroyed. However, this particle that is only 1%, you know what happens to it. We are here in this physical body, on this physical earth, for only a blink of an eye. But who we are as energy, as vibration, we live forever somewhere depending on our vibrational frequency. And there are only two emotions, fear and joy. When we are vibrating at fear, fear is so dense, that is why it is so much down on the energy frequency chart. Whereas love and joy and bliss and gratitude are on the highest frequency. And when we are in survival mode, we are only at the lowest level on the energy vibrational chart. When we get into gratitude and love, we are on the highest frequency. So where do you choose to be? To stay down and lament because of what you are not given in your 1%? Or to be grateful for that which you are able to achieve while you are still living on this physical earth in your physical body? What will be your choice? Fear or gratitude? Clap for yourselves again. Now I want you to listen to this very, very well. Because this 1% is the vehicle that we are given to drive the wave or the energy that is 99%. And this 1% that we are given enables us in physical form to be in this classroom we call Earth. And what are we here to learn? We are here to learn to be able to guide our energy and to master it so that we get out of low vibration to higher vibration. Every time you find yourself in fear, smile at that fear and let it be transmuted into gratitude so that you can be able to get out of survival mode into thrival mode. So we have only two perspectives. The 99% perspective of the gratitude, love, higher dimension, or the first perspective of the 1% when you are seeing things and situations from the 1% of fear, where you will have low esteem, where you will have that learned helplessness that no matter what I do, I cannot change this situation, or This other way of perceiving things from the 99% energy wave vibration, where you'll be able to get into self-empowerment, get to become the grandest version of the greatest vision you can be, and be able to be comfortable with uncertainty. But when we are still down here, we actually are not able to be comfortable with the unknown. We fear the unknown when you are here. But once we get here, no matter what chaos is going on around you, you are comfortable with change, you are comfortable with the unknown, and you are very comfortable with uncertainty. That's when you become of the world, or you live in the world, but you don't become one of it. Are we together so far? Yes. Now, I saw somebody's t-shirt behind, there was something written like, disability is a mindset. Let's all repeat it. Disability is a mindset. Now, it is not what happens to us that causes us distress. It is the meaning and interpretation. Somebody on the phone, look here. Where are your eyes? It is not what happens to us that causes distress. It is the meaning and interpretation we give to what happens to us that causes us distress. So the meaning and interpretation, if it is coming from the low vibratory area of fear, it will cause distress. When it is coming from the high vibration emotion of love and gratitude, it will give a meaning and interpretation that will give you freedom of mind and a liberated mind, not limited into survival, but elevated into thriving mode. So, if you are ready to thrive, keep seated. If you want to remain in survival, stand up. Clap for yourselves. If you want to remain in survival, stand up. If you want to grow into thrival mode, where you can become the best you can be, remain seated. Clap for yourselves because all of you are remaining seated. You have a question, bring it on. I see you doing like this. When we are still living in fear, we are in survival mode. Survival for the fittest. That is not our highest potential. Our highest potential is to thrive, to be comfortable with the unknown, to get out of learned helplessness and be able to become the best that we can be. Is that clear? So do you know the choice you are making now? If you are making the choice to stay in survival and keep in fear and keep vibrating at a low vibrational scale, stand up. But if you are ready to grow up into thrival mode, remain seated and clap for yourselves.
Thank you so much, Miss Beatrice. I knew that she would still build something within us. What did you see when you were closing your eyes? What did you imagine? What did you imagine? Many things, right? What did you learn? What did it remind you of? I think you saw even other kinds of abilities and disabilities that you had never imagined. Some of us, maybe we thought that, oh, I'm well, but I saw something. Even when my eyes were wide open, my mind was somewhere. So thank you so much, Madam Beatrice.
When we are with you, we can do something. That's why we decided that you come here, we share, we learn from these big speakers you've had, and I believe we are all going to go home well prepared to include students with disabilities in our institutions. And as must, we are glad for us, we think we are a bit somewhere. Though you can see we still have a bit of challenges, but which will be addressed as we continue coordinating with you people who already have the ideas and how to do things. Thank you very much. without wasting too much time, because we have started late, we can continue and be on the program. Thank you, Madam Bridget.